Did you try the drinks?
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to your Daily Detroit for Monday, July 29th, 2019. I'm Jer Stays. Detroit's food and drink scene continues to be active, but have we hit the peak? Today is a conversation that me, Sven Gustafson, and Devin O'Reilly had on Friday about what's new and notable in Detroit's dining world, including one of the places I'm excited about, a fully retro bowling alley up near 14 Mile. I was going to run this conversation before the weekend, but to be honest, moving has been, well, let's just say entertaining. A squatter decided to stay in our future rental, so your devoted podcaster has been living out of a suitcase and crashing on couches. So a special shout out to Cheyenne Nocerini, who edited this show for us. All right, let's get to what's fun around town right after this. The Daily Detroit podcast is brought to you by Milo. Milo is a digital marketing agency that produces amazing experiences for audiences. They partner with their clients to drive business and create innovative content. Do cool stuff with them at milo.agency.
And joining us in the Detroit Shipping Company studios of Podcast Detroit on a sunny Friday afternoon is our own Devin O'Reilly, man about town. Devin, how's it going?
It's great to be here, as you mentioned, on a sunny Friday afternoon. That's a great phrase to use, and it's always nice when we can sit out here in the studio and chat with you guys.
Well, you're always a ray of sunshine, man.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you are our man about town, and we always like to talk about where's good places to go eat and drink in the charming little burg we like to call Detroit. So I think the big news that we, have all been kind of talking about, and everybody's talking about it, is Mark Kurlianchik's story in the Free Press, published on Thursday, I think, headlined, "The Restaurant Boom in Metro Detroit is Over." So I think a lot of people, talking, obviously, because we have been in, no doubt, a restaurant boom. I think we can all agree on that, even if we disagree with his contention. But let me just sort of read sort of the nut graph, if you will, as the journalistic parlance. He writes, "Metro Detroit's recent spate of restaurant closings began quietly just before Christmas with the end of the Conserva in Ferndale and Small Plates on Broadway downtown. Then came the splashier shutters," he goes on, I won't read it all, but Hard Rock Cafe, which we broke that news on Daily Detroit, Giordano's, the Chicago-style pizza place, Royal Oaks Pasquale's up on Woodward, Le Petit Zinc in Midtown, Axel Brewing, their Livernois Tap, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what do you guys think about this story, man? What are your thoughts?
So, I mean, I've obviously got some thoughts on this, being close to my heart and near and dear and places I visit.
You being heavily invested in Detroit's restaurant boom?
Yes, and essentially having been to all of the places. I think it was a little bit of an overstatement. I mean, maybe, you go for headlines. Detroit restaurant boom is over. Sure. Makes for a very shareable, clickable headline. But I think the reality is when you read that article, I would echo what George Azar from Flowers of Vietnam and Kate Williams from Lady of the House said, is that we're maturing to a point where you can't just throw open your doors and expect crowds to line up. You have to actually bring it. You gotta have an interesting concept. You gotta be good. The cream rises to the top. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's actually a good thing that now there's competition, and it promotes the idea of the best chefs, the best restaurants, the best concepts, the most innovative things rising to the top, and not everybody makes it. And that's okay. Not every restaurant is going to make it in this restaurant climate in Detroit now, and I think that's okay.
I mean, I actually see a lot of what he's saying, and there are parts of that I actually really agree with. I mean, I think we are at the crest of the hype cycle. There has been a really big hype cycle with all of this, but if you talk to people on the ground, there's still only so many people living in downtown Detroit. There's still very limited dollars kind of to spread around.
Well, a lot of the dining patrons for these restaurants in Detroit are suburbanites. Let's be
they're suburban
perfectly
tourists.
Clear about that. That continues to be the case. It has been for decades,
I do think that there are things that were closures that were just going to happen anyway. I mean, like Giordano's I would not make as part of like the restaurant boom at all. I feel like that's just a garden variety thing that didn't make it.
Yeah, I would say exactly what you said. The other thing I was going to say is I'm almost stealing from a commenter on Facebook. And I don't remember exactly who this was, but he essentially said, name me a restaurant that closed that shouldn't have. I mean, it's a cold way of looking at it, but honestly, like you just said, Jer, what restaurant closed that, if you think about it, shouldn't have?
Well, so do you think, that list that we just went through, do you think they all deserve to have closed?
They weren't even the best in class at what they do, whether it be pizza or, whatever kind of fare. We talked about it. R.I.P. Le Petit Zinc, but their first location in Corktown, the atmosphere was just
so
on point.
great.
It was
Yeah.
perfect.
Oh,
With that-
amazing. Great memories.
and
With
they
that
just
courtyard.
and they just couldn't replicate it at
No.
the new Midtown location.
Because Midtown isn't the same neighborhood, right? Corktown's a little bit more funky. They had a really interesting space, being a little bit off from the drag. When you're in Midtown, things have got to be a little bit more posh. It's a little different of a feel.
Well,
It's not as bohemian.
They didn't have a courtyard. That outdoor garden dining was like, that was why you went there. I mean, the food was really good too. I really liked the food, but you couldn't touch that dining room, man.
Yeah,
It's kind of like
Outdoor
old
dining.
Miami without the backyard.
Exact. Good analogy. But yeah, so I think that what we're saying is what I would see more is if we got to a point where the Selden Standards or Central Kitchens of the world, if they started closing, then that would be an alarm to say something major is happening.
But I think it's also kind of inevitable. I mean, we have seen a boom here. There's been so many restaurants opening. And I mean, for people who aren't named Devin O'Reilly, it's tough to keep on top of them, and it's tough to, frankly, get out and try them all. I mean, there's just only so much time. And it was inevitable that it runs its course, right? I mean, there's only so many people living in the area who are going to be dining in these kind of restaurants anyway and willing to come into Detroit to try them. I mean, it was inevitably going to run its course.
Especially when it comes around repeat customers too. I would say that, you know.
Yeah. Well,
There's some really good restaurants, and then people just keep coming back to them. But not many people have the ability, if they're driving 40 minutes to come to Detroit, have the ability to say, I'm not going to go to that place that I know I really like. I'm going to go out of my way and try some new places.
It's a dining Disneyland.
One of the other interesting points I think that he brings up, Curly Anchik brings up in the story, is that from the restaurant operators, the owners' perspective, they're coming up against real challenges with talent, like finding staff, like talented staff to like operate your restaurants. And that's part of the problem here, is that there's only so many people going around, and it's already, you know, the restaurant business is already like super high turnover. There's no loyalty. People jump ship all the time. I mean, let's face it too. Most people working in the front of the house, especially, you know, taking your orders at the table or slinging drinks, they have grand designs that are beyond restaurants. They want to do something else.
I'd also push back on that, though, that if there is such a demand, why aren't the salaries going up? Why aren't the wages going up? Because what I hear over and over again from people who've worked in it, you know, seeing conversations where people have transitioned on out of it, it's really hard to make it work with these kind of salaries, with the schedules that, you know, aren't regular, where people are coming up with schedules the week before they're working. If they want better employees, maybe there needs to be a little bit better treatment of those employees, where it's like, oh, here's my actual work schedule and I know 2 weeks ahead of time or something.
Well, sure, but then that means you got to increase prices on the menu. And is the economy in the Detroit area doing that well? I mean, I don't think you and I
think we're still
think
pretty
it's
price sensitive.
that robust here.
We are super price sensitive for sure.
So I think maybe that's it too, is not every new restaurant can be like the new thing that is also expensive, and there needs to be maybe more casual dining options like that.
Another thing we wanted to touch on is this list that's out from Thrillist of the best sandwich shops in America. And the only Michigan entrant from the whole state, Mudgies, right here in Corktown.
Well deserved. I mean, you know, I guess we could debate this perhaps. I don't know how everyone's thought is on this, but I think Mudgies is the best sandwich in the city and in the area. I mean, Zingerman's would be the other one you would think of.
Yeah, that seems like sort of a glaring omission. I don't know what their criteria was. I mean, you guys mentioned that Zingerman's is really expensive. Yes, but I didn't see that like, oh, we, you know, aimed for sandwiches that were $10 or under or anything like that. Zingerman's sets a pretty high bar for a good sandwich.
They are definitely a glaring omission in this case. So I don't know, what are some other besides
What are some good
Zingerman's?
sandwich shops?
I mean,
in
Mudgies
town?
is in the middle of Lobster Week, so I mean,
It's a simple sandwich shop, but I love Ernie's.
in Oak Park. Yeah.
It's simple, it's straightforward, but I have a big spot in my heart for those places that are straightforward, that are almost like the dive bar of sandwich shops. As somebody who has now co-written 3 or 4 sandwich lists over the years, I'm a big fan of stuff like that because it does its job, and it does its job very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
I would say this is a real under the radar one. Has anyone here been to Maddie's Deli in Dearborn?
Ooh, no.
Maddie's Deli in Dearborn. People in the know.
Where is it?
It's on Monroe Street in Dearborn, West Dearborn, right on Monroe Street. It's one of those delis. It's only open, you know, weekdays, you know, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And they just have amazing sandwiches. It's all, you know, cut in-house. Super awesome. Everybody in Dearborn is like, Maddie's Deli is a thing. My brother who lives in LA, whenever he comes back to Dearborn, that's one of his must-haves.
Speaking of Dearborn and that west side, what is that famous Burger or something. Isn't there something like that that's opening up yet another location?
Dearborn's got a few different places around the whole burger theme right in there. You got famous Hamburger. You've got Brome, obviously. You've got Unburger.
What's this place with the gas station burger? That's really good.
Tasties,
that place. I actually took someone on a date to Tasties once and it worked.
It's in a gas station though.
It worked. It was great. They had a great time.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, Tasties is a very interesting location right there, all the way down Ford Road. Basically, Ford Road in Wyoming, essentially, right just past the movie theater, the drive-in theater. So really random location, but yeah, they're doing some amazing things with burgers, and they've been recognized. I think they won the Battle of the Burgers, or they've placed in it really highly. But yeah, tasty burger in Dearborn. Don't sleep on the Dearborn burger scene.
All right, well, let's go through and talk about some of our favorite recent eats. As not a whole lot of new openings, big splashy new openings to talk about, but I think one that a few of us have tried now, Yum Village. Our friend Godwin has his new brick and mortar place open. It's been open for a couple months now, I think, on Woodward Avenue in the News Center. Well, I ran into him Sunday at Crash Detroit over at the DeQuinder Cut Freight Yard, where he was, serving up some jerk chicken and some curry chicken. I had some of the jerk chicken. It was delicious, served over Joffrey rice, I think it's called, and really good, nice and spicy, kind of singed my lips a little bit. Very tasty.
Yeah, I visited the brick and mortar location that they recently opened right in News Center, just off the Woodward and the Boulevard. And it's awesome. Yeah, Afro-Caribbean. They do it kind of like bowl style. I think that what I really appreciated about it is I don't necessarily know Afro-Caribbean cuisine and all the ingredients and things like that, but they do it really simply so that a layman or someone can just go in there and kind of understand how to build their meal or build their bowl without really having an understanding of the food. They make it very approachable for someone to get it. Yeah, like you said, the jerk chicken is awesome.
Yeah, very good. Another place that's been open for a couple months now, I think, but I just finally made it over there just earlier this week, actually, Peso. Old Huron Room and Fist of Curry location on Bagley, kind of on the outskirts of Mexican town. I loved it, man. I really like that place. Stylish restaurant, kind of a unique menu, like a little bit different than, your typical Mexican town fare.
Did you try the drinks?
Oh, yeah. So I follow them on, I think I've mentioned this before. I follow them on Instagram, and their Instagram feed is just fire. They just take pictures of their cocktails, and every day I'm just like, oh my God, that looks so good. And yeah, I had a, forget what the category or what they call these style of drinks, but it's basically the ones they say that are popular in Jalisco. They make them with fresca and lots of fruit. So mine was a mezcal, and it had fresca, a bunch of citrus fruit in there, and a sprig of rosemary.
Very good.
With the tagine spice mix on the rim and the ceramic mugs.
Yeah, I had a mezcal drink there that was really, really good. Similar to that, but a little bit different. It was like they're taking a Paloma, I think. But no, drinks are awesome.
So good.
The food is awesome. And like alluding to what we had talked about before, the price point is very good.
Yeah. So it's a stylish restaurant, but it's not upscale, I wouldn't say. Because they keep everything's under $20 for the most part. And substantial food and full of flavor. I really like that place. Thumbs up from me.
Thumbs up over here, too.
You were talking about the Grand Circus Bourbon Garden being back open. What's that all about?
Yeah, so this is, I believe, the second year they're doing this in Grand Circus Park. They've put together these glass huts that they have set up right there, and they're permanent. And every Thursday is music in the park, and they've created essentially a bourbon garden in Grand Circus Park. So it's open Thursday through Saturday. And they've got a full bar there. They've got a great selection of bourbons, wines, beers, cocktails, things like that. And then, as I mentioned on Thursdays, they do live music. So the Michigan Opera Theater was just the last one, and they do a rolling
I saw
schedule.
Something. Okay, I didn't realize that was what that was. Somebody posted somewhere a video of opera singer. That was you.
Yeah.
That was you.
Yeah, they're always they do new
now
new
that
stuff.
I think of it.
New stuff each week. Glad I could keep you in the know. New stuff each week, and then they bring in a food truck. So they had some really good sliders yesterday. They mix it up and have different food concepts. So it's just a really nice way, especially when the weather's great like this. It's really cool. You can kind of sit out in the park, listen to some live music. It gets a kind of great diverse crowd. So it's a really cool experience.
Yeah. Bourbon in the heat like this never quite strikes my fancy. I don't know, Jer, you're a big bourbon fan, I know.
We talked about this a little bit on, I think it was yesterday's show about the Bricks in Grosse Pointe when we went to that preview. I liked their bourbon drink. I know that Cheyenne wasn't as much of a fan, but here is the deal. It was just out of season. I really enjoyed my gin drink because when it's warm out, I want the gin or the vodka or something a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
Once it starts to cool off a little bit, I like that warming feel of the bourbon. If I drink bourbon right now, I'm just going to feel sick.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, Pig and Whiskey. I don't know if any of you guys made it to Pig and Whiskey this year in Ferndale.
It was so hot last weekend.
Well, I mean, it's always, I mean, this was something else for sure, but it's always just blazing hot that weekend. And I'm like, Pig and Whiskey, and it's like 90 degrees. Like, I'm more in the mood for like salad and rosé and that kind of weather, you know?
I have been drinking a lot more rosé in the summer now.
Rosé is fantastic.
I'm with you on that. I want to know from you, though, because that's a good point. And I do drink less bourbon and dark stuff in the summer. Where is your inflection point? When can you drink bourbon again?
70 degrees.
So it's a degree thing, not necessarily a calendar thing.
Yeah, because it's a physical reaction for me.
Okay.
Now, for some people, it's different. I know that there are folks who are bourbon, all the time. Like a friend of ours, Billy, he's all bourbon all the time, right? But like Basil Hayden, all that stuff, it's his jam. For me personally, over 70 degrees, I can't do it. It's because it's almost like I'm drinking like a heater.
Yeah, exactly. And
I'm a big man, so it gets hot really fast.
Yeah. I probably need to go lower than that. I mean, I like bourbon. I don't drink it that often. It's a little bit like dangerous to me.
Remember that time at 2, James?
Yeah, very well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. I probably need to go a little colder than that, even like below 60, I would almost say, like is my bourbon threshold.
Email us, dailydetroit@gmail.com. What is your bourbon threshold? We'll share it on a future show.
So, Jerry, you mentioned the bricks. You covered that all in Detroit's episode. If somebody didn't hear it, I mean, give us the quick thumbnail. Like, you like that pizza?
Elevated neighborhood pizza joint. Really good. Again, press preview, so therefore it wasn't really a good indicator of the actual service in battle, but it was a great looking space. Got to see a very cool mill that they have there because they're milling all of this flour that they actually get from their farm up in Metamora.
Yeah.
They've got a beautiful Italian oven. It is a great corner spot. Do not sleep on Grosse Pointe Park for your fun needs.
For your fun needs. That'd be a great, motto for the city, Grosse Pointe Park. Don't sleep on us for your fun needs.
I don't know if we really talked about this, but it is one of the few neighborhoods in Metro Detroit that's actually walkable, where that outside of your job, because there aren't that many like career jobs right there, unless you work for the city or something. It's one of those places where you could literally just stop and you can walk to the store. You could walk to the bar. You could walk your dog. You could bike places. And it doesn't need extra bike lanes. It's just ready and set up to go.
It's true. I mean, I used to live there, and I'm thinking about that next time, one of these days, I'm going to, my wife and I, we're going to go to dinner out there somewhere. I don't know where. We'll pick a place, but I just have to be in the mood for like a half an hour drive, because that's about how long it's going to take to get there from Ferndale, where I live. All right. So there are some restaurant openings on the horizon. They're not quite here yet, but they are coming. We've got a couple new poke restaurants coming to Midtown, including the former Le Petit Zinc space.
Yeah, so that's already getting a new tenant, Poke Burry, which is a poke place. They're going to do kind of like poke burritos, it sounds like, which should be interesting. Good. I think it's going to be very Instagrammable, a word we like to use here in Daily Detroit, at least when I'm here. And then Poke, keeping it simple, is opening up on Woodward in the Studio One complex there.
Very cool. And then, Jer, you wanted to take us out by talking about a bowling alley.
I know it sounds crazy, but I just have seen some pictures from Bowlero up in like the Royal Oak Clawson area.
Yeah, when you were first mentioning this, I thought you were talking about some fancy restaurant. Bowlero. Oh, it sounds like Spanish tapas or something.
Or
like
maybe
that.
An opera or something.
And you're explaining, it's on that, Coolidge, just south of 14 Mile. And I'm thinking, I don't know any restaurant up that way.
Yeah. So they've redone this place with new owners. In fact, they're tied. The owners are also tied to the Majestic. It's Xenia.
Yeah.
Xenia. And from the pictures, and they're apparently they're going to open up later this year, but they have recreated mid-century modern greatness in there. It is totally retro looking. I am so pumped about this because I love period-specific redos. Any period that you're going to do, pick a lane, stick to it, and execute it well. And these pictures, I'm just sitting there going, wow, this is going to be really cool to check out.
And right down the street from Ray's Ice Cream, too.
Jer, is there a bar?
I do.
It's a bowling alley. Doesn't every bowling? Isn't that like a
every bowling alley has a bar, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be. Yeah.
All for it. Bowling's one of those sports you actually sometimes get better after a few drinks.
Maybe we should do a group outing there sometime soon.
Well, folks in the Bowlero world, if you're listening to the sounds of our voice right now, we would like to descend upon you and bowl on your lanes.
All right, well, let's leave it on that image because it's also getting mother scratching hot in the studio. So let's wrap this one up. Devin O'Reilly, thanks so much, as always, for coming in.
Glad to be here. Always a pleasure.
What do you have planned for the weekend, man? Any
I'm gonna enjoy this weather. There's gonna be some rosé in my future, and when the sun goes down, Jared, there's still gonna be some bourbon. So I'm looking forward to enjoying the weekend and the weather.
Me, I'm going to head over to the next block with my growler to Founders and fill it up with some of their Pilsner, which I just found out is that they renamed their PC Pils. I don't know if you don't really drink beer, do you?
No, okay. I diversify with the best of them.
Okay, so PC Pils is a Pilsner, but it's like a hoppy style Pilsner.
Okay, I love hoppy, love IPA.
And it's really, really good. And they renamed it, and I've been wondering, like, why am I not finding this stuff it's a seasonal. And it's usually out by now, and I think it is, but I just haven't been seeing it, and it turns out they renamed it. So I'm going to saunter over there.
Founders does a really good job of switching up their offerings and doing new beer stuff, so I might have to head over there as well and check out what they've got.
Sounds good. Jer?
I think it's time to go see Minister Larry Love at the Temple Bar, that is.
Oh, very nice.
And I don't know if he's actually a minister, but he'll give you advice like one.
How high class.
Well, you know me, divey bottom, classy top, never the douchey middle.
All right, thanks, everybody.
And we're done for today. Thanks so much for listening to Your Daily Detroit. If you want to push Detroit's conversation forward, be sure to share the show with a friend or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. For all of us here, I'm Jared Stays. Take care of each other. We'll see you around Detroit.
You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.